Okay, now I think I'm live. Yes? I hope. Yes. Hello? I think there might be a little bit of a delay. Can people still hear me? If you can just put something in the chat. Oops. Okay. Yes, Alan, thank you so much. Okay, good morning from Lancaster, California. Nels, thank you so much. Sabrina, hello. So where is everybody calling in from today? Ah, thank you so much. My God. This tech stuff, I swear it's going to be, it's the bane of my existence. David, hello. And Son Mon Street, Todd, and Selens. Yes, Pillar, thank you so much. This is great. Okay, everybody can see me, so we can kind of get started now. That's great. Tell me where you're calling in from. I'd love to know. It's always fascinating. If you've been on the other lives that we've been doing all this month, they've been so great. People have been really calling in from all over the place, and it's really exciting because I've been to Mexico so many times, and it's always an amazing time. I've met some incredible people, learned so much. And so that's what really inspired this whole program. Many of you know my guests today. So I'm going to bring them on right now so we can get started. A lot of people are from Seattle, Long Beach, Orlando, Wisconsin. Awesome. This is so great. Okay, so you guys can unmute yourselves. These are my guests, Taniel Chemsian, who is a senior sales associate at Timothy Real Estate Group that many of you may know. Taniel and I have done several videos on the Modern Aging YouTube channel, and if you have not seen any of them, you definitely have to do that after this presentation. And then Craig and Randy, who are residents of Puerto Vallarta. They retired there 4.5 years ago, as I have just, right? Yeah. So are you guys unmuted?
Yes.
Yes. You're just very quiet. No, you're muted.
No, I'm
and Tanya,
unmuted.
You're muted too. So you guys can just, Tanya, why don't you go first and just give a little brief introduction of who you are, why PV, how long have you been there, and what you love most about living there.
Sure. Welcome, everyone.
No, you're muted.
I am?
Oh, now you're not. Maybe I'm muted. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's Sunday morning. Well, I moved to Vallarta from Los Angeles in 2003. My first time in PV was actually for my birthday, a milestone birthday in 2001. I fell in love with the city. And up until that point, I was kind of ready to move on from Los Angeles, having lived there for, my whole life. Just kind of time to change the pace and kind of slow things down. And Vallarta was kind of like, just coming down for my birthday. I mean, that was basically it. And I just fell in love. And for my very first trip, I knew I wanted to move here. So I made like a 2-year plan. I relocated here in 2003 and went to real estate in October of 06. So it's almost 15 and a half years now, I think. And, I just love the town here. And I've got the mountains on one side, the ocean on the other. People are just really friendly, laid back. And it's a great mixture of old world and modern over here. So you have it's a beautiful mixture of the two. And I've met a lot of wonderful people from all over the world living and working here. And that's kind of it. It's been a great adventure for me.
Craig and Randy, do you want to do a little intro?
Hello. I'm Randy.
I'm Craig.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Okay.
We moved here from Santa Fe, New Mexico, with our, at that time, 17-year-old son. And we spent most of our lives, we spent our lives in Los Angeles. We met in Los Angeles and then lived in Santa Fe for 22 years. We both come from entertainment backgrounds. I ran theaters and did theater, and Randy was a television director and a comedy improv guy.
So he's funny. Randy, you funny.
Funny? Who?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. We'll try to find some funny. That's what they said about the Oscars tonight. They're going to try to be funny. That's never a good idea to try to be funny. Anyway, yeah, we started coming to Puerto Vallarta a long time ago. We vacationed the first time here, maybe in 2008 or nine, something like that, and just completely fell in love with it, and kept coming back every spring break, every year for 12 years, and then we we took the plunge and decided to move here with our son, and he finished school here, actually, at the American School in Puerto Vallarta, 11th and 12th grades.
And what we did when we came here, we would come for 2 weeks. We'd spend 1 week in the Zona Romantica area, and then we'd spend another week somewhere else on the bay. And we sort of, as a way of exploring and seeing, because we knew we wanted to move here when we retired. So that was our way of figuring out where we wanted to live.
And once we saw it, we wanted to retire right then. We were ready. It was really hard after we saw Puerto Vallarta to not just come here and move. But we weren't quite ready. We weren't old enough.
Well,
And Sandra,
a lot of
yeah.
the people here today, I think, are where you were. So this is great, right? It's perfect.
Okay, good. Yeah, it's a dream. I can say that. It's a dream come true for us. Never thought it would happen like this. Never thought it would be possible. But it is, and we're very, very, very happy.
So we're
So
going to
we're
share
happy.
some of those
We're
secrets.
happy.
Yeah.
And we're especially happy because of Taniel.
Yes, Taniel's not only our realtor, but our best friend here. And he found us our first place, which was in Conchas Chinas. It was a 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom.
Well, 2-bedroom and a studio
Office den. Yeah, 2-story, with a magnificent view of the entire Bay of Banderas and a big terrazza upstairs that you could just see forever. He found that one day we called and said, Taniel, can we look at some properties, or can we just meet you and talk about looking at properties? We met, we made a priority list and came to see him the next morning, and he took us to one place, and that was the place we bought. That
I
morning.
hear those kind of stories all the time. It's so crazy.
Crazy.
Impulse buy.
I totally forgot because I had my tech issues and kind of went whatever. Just to do a little bit of housekeeping before we move forward. So this whole session is going to run about an hour 15 minutes, depending on all the questions. So we're going to kind of go through your questions as we're going through the whole hour. So don't feel like we have to wait until the end. And because this is really to help you guys figure out whether PV is a place where you guys want to plant some roots or maybe just visit or whatever it may be. So I do recommend that you silence your phones and close your door and all that kind of stuff so that we can stay focused for the next hour or so. And then I also have an announcement at the end, so you're definitely going to want to stick around to the end. So as we move forward, for those of you who do not know, Puerto Vallarta is on the west coast. It's on the Pacific coast of Mexico. So it's, I'm in New York, so it's a nice direct flight during the wintertime. I guess six months out of the year from New York. It's about a 5-hour flight, so it's the same as California for us. And lovely, lovely, lovely. Those of you who have not been there, it's set up against the Banderas Bay and then the mountains. So you kind of get the best of both worlds. You get beach and you also get mountains. So these are the Sierra Madre Mountains. Is that correct, men? Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I just want to make sure my geography is good. This picture was taken by Craig. Los Arcos, which is a very famous landmark in Puerto Vallarta. And the beaches there are like ridiculous, really pretty, but also very crowded depending on where you go. So once you live there, you kind of get to know the beaches that are less crowded and less touristy. And this is the famous Malecon in Puerto Vallarta that runs right along the bay, which is beautiful. And this is Taniel's photo, which I cannot even believe this is real. I was like, what? It's
Believe it.
pretty spectacular. They get, of course, because they're on the West Coast, they get ridiculous sunsets. Ridiculous. And this actually was just taken the other day, apparently. Right, Taniel?
Yeah, Randy, Craig, and I went out to dinner. This restaurant, it's built like right off the beach. And we just sat down, and the sun was setting right when we got there. And I turned around and I saw that. And you remember, guys? And I just snapped the photograph right then and there.
Yeah.
So it was
No
just
filter.
quite spectacular. Yeah. The sunsets here are beautiful.
So just so you know, if my eyes are wandering, it's because I'm doing the tech and the comments and all that kind of stuff. So I just
And
wanted to
you
make
should
you guys
also know the bay is a national preserve. It's a marine mammal preserve because the whales come here, the humpback whales come here to give birth and mate.
and
They
I've
come
seen
down
it. It's
from
amazing.
From
Yeah,
Alaska,
from Alaska.
usually in December,
Yeah,
kind
sometime
of
in
December, and then they're here
Yeah.
till almost March. And that's amazing to see. They gave us a show nearly every day in December and January. The whales would swim by in front of our place and the babies would splash up, and it's really an amazing thing to see. And feel very fortunate to be able to see it. Something I wanted to say, Risa and Taniel, about the jungle. I mean, the mountains are jungle.
Mhm.
They're completely covered in jungle ferns and palms and trees. And so in the rainy season, which is in the summer, they're just vibrant green. It's so spectacularly beautiful. And I never thought I'd look away from the ocean, but when you've got that as a background, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, it is. It's pretty cool. And you can go hiking in there too. Okay. So I know you guys are starting to write in your questions. Okay, so before we get to your questions, Tanya's just going to go through a little bit of a map of different areas of PV and Bucerias. We're going to start with Bucerias, which has become quite popular. It's north of Puerto Vallarta. And we're going to talk a little bit about real estate, right? And how much, let's say, a 2-bedroom, 2-bath may cost in these different areas. So go ahead, Tanya.
Yep. Sure. Thanks, Risa. So, oftentimes I'm asked, what does a 2-bedroom cost here and there? And 2 bedrooms being like the number one sellers for condominiums right now. So looking at Bucerias is actually in the state of Nayarit. It's around 15, 20 minutes north of the airport. And when I moved here in 2003, it was a very, very quaint, quiet little town. Probably what Vallarta was maybe about 40, 50 years ago. And Bucerias has been growing considerably in the last 5 to 6 years. Right now, you're seeing a lot of new construction going up, primarily from the highway to the beach side, which is west of the highway. And that stretch is not really that long. It's maybe about 4 or 5 blocks, and sometimes it narrows down to maybe 2 or 3 blocks wide when you go to the further northern part of Bucerias. So right now, for pre-construction 2-bedroom condos, that's not on the water. You can start at around $200,000. You're looking at just under 1,000 square feet. And resale right now in Bucerias for 2-bedroom, 2-bath, starting at around just under 300,000, around 295 or so for a condo that's 1,300 square feet. And so when you move into Vallarta, so now you're south of the Ameca River, which is a dividing border from Nayarit to Jalisco, you have the Fluvial Versalles area. Now, when you look at this on a map, it looks like it's like in the center of the bay. And there's been tremendous growth in this area over the last 10 years. We have a Costco there. There are a number of banks, restaurants, family-owned businesses, cafes and clothing stores, jewelry stores. So that area has been growing up considerably. Where with Versailles first, with a lot of new condominium buildings going up, there aren't that many large buildings there per se. So the units tend to be a little bit smaller. But right now, for pre-construction in the Fluvial Versailles area, you're looking at around $205,000 for like a 1-bedroom plus a den that could be converted into a 2-bedroom. When you go further south, so now you're closer to downtown where the Malecon is, where Risa showed you in a photograph a few minutes ago. So just north of El Centro downtown is the 5th of December neighborhood. That area also in the last few years has been booming. So there are a number of new buildings that have been going up over there. Not as much as Versailles or the Romantic Zone per se, but it's starting to grow in that region as well. So for pre-construction right now, on the 5th of December for a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, you're looking at around 375,000, and resale older buildings are starting at around $330,000. Romantic Zone, everyone's heard of the Romantic Zone. That's like the golden egg in the Bay. It's been the busiest, most heavily active real estate market in the entire Bay for over 15 plus years. There are a lot of buildings going up. It's become a bit saturated at this time, and that's why they're starting to build in 5th of December, Versailles, and other regions. So the Romantic Zone, a lot of vacationers love to stay there. You don't need a car. You can walk to grocery stores, restaurants, cafes, bars. It's got everything, so you really don't need a vehicle. So a 2-bedroom right now for pre-construction is starting just under 400,000, and for resale, it's starting at around 475 and up. It's around for like 1,300 square feet. If you look at the Mapas Conchas Chinas area, most of that is hillside. They do have the lower Mapas Conchas Chinas, so that's from the highway down to the beach. And for pre-construction, for 2-bedroom, you're looking at around 437,000, and for resale, you're looking at around 295 and up.
That's great. And I mean,
Yeah.
PV has definitely exploded. I mean, you can tell by the prices, right? It's not, you can't get your beach bungalow for, $70,000 anymore. That doesn't exist anymore in PV. But I mean, that's why it's spreading out. And I know that there are some questions about reaching out towards like Sayulita. There's also Mismaloya towards the south. Even Craig and Randy have recently moved there, not in the center. Like if you don't have to be in the center of the action, if you want to be, you can be. It'll cost you, but you can also live a little bit further out if you want some savings. So Nieda is asking, where can I find out how to get a place? Well, you would contact a realtor, clearly, and you definitely want to, whether it's Taniel or whether it's somebody else, it's definitely somebody that you trust, who's going to
But there is nobody else.
There is
nobody else. It's Taniel. You would be crazy not to use Taniel.
I'm not paying them to say this.
You just need me some money.
But it is true. Taniel has
us.
integrity
More
that
pay us,
a lot
please.
a lot of agents may not have. But there's plenty of agents around, so it's not like Taniel's the only one. Or are you? I don't know. You might be. I see you everywhere, so you might be the only agent in PV. That's what I feel like sometimes. What area of PV do you live in, Craig and Randy?
We recently moved to south of Garza Blanca. So we are on the ocean. We're renting. We made so much. We made the most money we've ever made on the sale of a house in the shortest period of time. So we took that money, we are investing it, and decided to move to be on the beach. And so we're in a beautiful building that is just south of Garza Blanca and north of Mismaloya. Yeah. And it is heaven.
So we're on the beach. We're beachfront. Yeah. We have a very large condo with a big terrace overlooking the bay, beautiful views. This one has no stairs, thank goodness. It's really, for us, it's a prime location. When we first moved here in 2017, we had a son who was a teenager, and we kind of needed to be in the middle of things so that he could access friends and shopping was easier. But after living here for several years, we decided we kind of wanted to get away from the action. And that's why we've moved where we live now, and we're very, very happy there.
Yeah.
And what's your rent?
$2,000 a month, US.
But however, I need to say,
for 2-bedroom, 2-bath, and a studio,
that rent is on the low side, and we looked at rents that went up to $3,000 and $4,000.
Wow.
And the same for a comparable building and more.
If it's beachfront, we can't believe the deal we got. We just really got lucky.
Well, Taniel said we would never be able to do it. We did it, Taniel.
And he's
say
glad
never.
we did.
Yeah.
So,
Just as reference really quick, Risa,
uh-huh.
when they're saying where they live, so they're on the South Shore, they're on the beach. So when you're looking at the map, you see the romantic zone. So from there, depending on traffic, it's around a 15, 20-minute drive south from the romantic zone. So
Great.
it's not far.
So does anybody have any of you guys been to Mazatlan, and do you have any kind of comparisons of what the lifestyle is like between PV and Mazatlan?
No,
No,
never been to Mazatlan.
never been to Mazatlan. But thanks for that question.
Sorry, Miss Weiss. So I do have a video of a woman that I interviewed on the Modern Aging YouTube channel who does live in Mazatlan for a very incredibly low cost. So you can watch that on the channel. If you just put in the search Modern Aging Mazatlan, it should pop up. Are the new immigration laws more restrictive? I'm sorry.
So one of my coworkers is from Mazatlan. So if she wants more information, just shoot me an email and I'll get you in contact with him. He can tell you all about Mazatlan.
Okay. All right. So, well, if you want, you can email hello@thisismodernaging.com. And this goes for everybody. If I don't get to your question, or if you have other questions, or you want to reach Taniel, you want to reach Craig or Randy, you can email me at hello@thisismodernaging.com, and then I will forward everything. It'll just make everything easier. Okay. So, are the new immigration laws more restrictive for those anticipating moving to PV?
Or the what?
Immigration laws. So I think this is also a visa question that has come up actually every time now.
Yeah.
And what I keep hearing is that, the 6-month visa, the tourist visa it was never automatic to begin with. But apparently now, if you do want to stay for a longer period of time, is to just ask and tell the officer that you're, at immigration, that you want to stay for 4 months, 5 months, 6 months. And generally they do grant that, but they won't automatically grant that unless you ask for it.
I think you really need to speak to an immigration attorney where you're moving, because everybody I know has a slightly different story. And
there are a lot of good immigration lawyers down here, and they're not nearly as expensive as lawyers are in the U.S. Also, when we were first moving down here, we were very nervous about all the paperwork, all the documentation. What if we do this wrong? We had a son, we had 2 dogs, we were selling. We were really moving down here, and we spent quite a bit of time at the Mexican embassy in Albuquerque, New Mexico. They were incredibly helpful.
And your first step to immigrate here, or to get a residency card to live here, is the embassy nearest, or the embassy or the consulate that's in your city. Yeah, your consulate.
Yeah.
So the Mexican consulate in your town, or the closest Mexican consulate in your town, before you even arrive.
Yeah.
Right. They didn't know what to do with us, because they never had 2 men with a child who had adopted a child. So they said, come back next week and we'll figure this out.
And they did, and they were great.
They were great.
But when you're thinking about this kind of move, there's, it's daunting. That we did make the decision to bring a car, because we felt like we just needed to be able to get around everywhere. And Sanders School was 45 minutes across town. So we drove down. We drove one of our cars down. We sold the other one. And so there was all the car stuff, the registration. And we did get I got a Mexican driver's license, which I later lost. But it wasn't that bad. All of it's... I guess it's important to know that our biggest fears were really not nearly as bad as we imagined them to be. It's so many people are doing this, and there are pathways that are fairly easy and accessible. Certainly, if you have an immigration lawyer, if you have a good realtor, if you contact the right people, it's really not that bad. And it's worth it.
And it's definitely finding those right people, though, right? It's just making sure that you have somebody who has integrity, knows what they're doing, that sort of thing. I think that's where a lot of the fear comes in. But that's what all these sessions are about, right? Is to really familiarize yourself with what you need to know, and then also, make recommendations.
Well, Taniel got us our immigration lawyer, our doctor. Nearly everyone we know here that we work with professionally, our tax lady that does our U.S. taxes, and nearly everyone that we work with here came through Taniel. So you learn to kind of network.
Exactly.
Oh,
Like life in
and
general.
something else I think a lot of people worry about is, does anyone speak English? And yes, they do. More than you might think. I think Vallarta is especially
Well, it's a big expat population. I believe next to the Ajijic, Lake Chapala area, it's the largest expat population. Am I right about that, Taniel?
Yeah, they got a huge retirement community up there as well. That's correct, Craig. Really good question
yeah,
about the immigration. If you're
if
just
someone,
flying in as a regular
sorry.
tourist,
Mhm.
people assume that the immigration attorney at the airport, when you're getting off the plane, that they're going to put 180 days on your tourist card. That's a myth. It's not a guarantee. So if you're just coming as a regular tourist and you want to stay here for 2 or 3, 4 months, like Lisa pointed out, just make sure they write 180. Sometimes up with 90 days, 30 days. They're looking at your ticket when you're returning back. So if you're staying for a week, why would they put 180 days on your tourist card? Doesn't make any sense. But if you are planning on staying for a longer period of time, just double check that you're going to legally be in the country for that amount of time. Now, if you're going to get your temporary or permanent residency, like Craig and Randy went through, my suggestion is get in contact with an immigration specialist in the town that you're going to move to, or an immigration attorney, and help them guide you on the steps. And the process, like Randy and Craig just told you, you start at the consulate, the Mexican consulate in your town, in your province, if you're from Canada, and then you finish the process when you fly into Mexico. And that can take a little bit of time. So it's really important to get all this information from the immigration specialist so you know exactly what to do.
It's like anything else. It's about planning.
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely.
The planning is key.
Mhm.
So Laura's asking, Taniel, do you do all-around services, showings, price negotiations, recommendations for attorney to review legality of ownership and contracts, notario, and aid with transfer of funds to finalize purchase?
That sounded like like when you see a commercial, like the disclaimer.
I do
3
not
seconds
do.
you set it off. Wow, that was
Side
fast.
effects.
Yes, my real estate company will provide all those services. Yes. We'll help you find a real estate attorney. We go over the contracts with you and all the steps, what to anticipate. So yes, we do all that.
Arvi's asking, did they purchase international health insurance? By they, I'm assuming you mean Randy and Craig and Taniel, actually. So let's talk a little bit about health insurance, especially, Randy and Craig, you have actually used the services quite a bit. You've had surgery in Mexico, in PV and such. But you do, so talk about a little bit about what kind of health insurance you have.
There's 2 ways to go. And because of our age, we have U.S. expat insurance.
Because you can't get Mexican national insurance over 65.
You can, but it is more expensive and less reliable.
Less effective.
Less effective.
Yeah.
So we have.
And the alternative, of course, is to fly back to the U.S. every time something goes wrong and use Medicare. We've chosen not to do that because the medical care we've gotten here has been so much better than we ever dreamed it would be. Our doctors speak English. The hospitals and offices are new and clean. I have macular degeneration, so I actually have to go to a retina specialist in Guadalajara, which is a ways away, but not that far. He's the best in all of Mexico. And he's got all the newest equipment. He's on an international research team. They all speak English. I mean, all of that was such good news for us in terms of healthcare and dentistry.
And I've had emergency. I broke a bone in my shoulder, so I've had emergency surgery, and it was the best experience I've ever had at a hospital. And then I just had a knee replacement surgery about in
Last summer,
June.
right?
Yeah,
Mhm.
in the summer.
Mhm.
And great. In fact, the doctor, as many doctors in the U.S., trained at University of Guadalajara. It is a huge medical center and a huge medical center internationally.
And Craig, didn't they provide the transportation for you?
Yeah, this particular doctor does a lot of medical tourism. So the office is filled with people that were athletes as young people and now need new knees because they're in their mid 40s.
And some young people
And
who are
some
athletes.
who have had, and it's so much cheaper here to have that kind of surgery. And so literally, he normally would put you up in a hotel. You'd have the surgery, you'd be in the hotel for a week, he'd put you on a plane, you go home and you have physical therapy. But because of that, I was picked up at home and taken to the hospital in Bucerias, which at the time was their non-COVID hospital. The hospital where they COVID-free hospital.
And the nurse came out every 2 or 3 days to change the bandages, check the wound. I mean, came to our house, no charge. This was all included in the doctor's services. Dr. Max is really great. I mean, he's American parents, right?
He's from the U.S. He went to university in Wisconsin, I think Minnesota, and then University of Guadalajara, and then Germany.
Wow. And then your insurance covered it.
My insurance covered all but the $1,000 deductible.
So we have Vumi Insurance, which is a company that's based in, I believe, Texas, and provides insurance for people who live overseas, expats. And it's not cheap, but there's very little they don't cover. If they exclude something, if you have a major problem going to that company, then they're going to exclude that. But other than that, they've covered nearly everything we've had to have done once we paid the deductible.
And what was our initial company? Because it was much cheaper, but they only cover you for 2 years. CMI, CRI.
I don't know.
It's a big international company.
IMG.
But they will only cover you for 2 years at our age.
Oh my God. That's so, anyway, that's not the job of an insurance company is to insure people, but that's a whole other issue. Okay. So I want to start getting
dental work as well. The dental work also.
Right.
Great here. Great.
Ian is asking security issues. I've seen reports that the cartel is now running Mexico and the police are guarding PVR. Have the new increased financial amounts on Mexican visas retirement affected the sales?
I have no idea what he's talking about.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
The police is protecting Vallarta. I don't know where that came from.
Well, I think this is another one of those myths. I mean, yes, there are cartels here. There's crime all over the U.S. too, but we do not see that here. It's not part of our life.
They don't care about us.
They don't care about us, and we don't do foolish things. We're not out at sketchy nightclubs or whatever all night long and getting bombed. We're at home getting bombed. But it's just like when you're in New York or LA. There are things you do to be safe, but there's not a bunch of cartel people running around. So,
well, you don't know who they are, though. Yeah. It's
cartel.
like the mafia in New York.
No, I don't know who they are.
No.
I don't think it's the Starbucks guy, though.
You never know. Have the Canadian travel restrictions affected sales? Unvaccinated can still not leave Canada. via air or land? I feel like PV
Well, I have
in
a
all
lot
of
of
Mexico has been booming in terms of sales. No matter, I don't know.
Oh,
Yeah, well, kind of let's go back in time a few months, like about a year or so. Yes, Canadians were not allowed to travel to Mexico, but that's changed now. And even back then, I had a lot of Canadian clients that they were buying, virtually. So we would just go with our smartphones and do a WhatsApp video or FaceTime video with the virtual tours. You don't have to be here to close on a transaction, so that was great for them. In the meantime, they were just kind of waiting until they can get out and come down. And I have a lot of clients from Canada that basically, because of what's happened the last couple of years, and they could work remotely, and the bad taste things that's been left in their mouth, the way things were kind of run because of the whole COVID situation, they've completely cashed out of the country and they're moving to Vallarta or somewhere else in the world and investing over there. It's been really interesting to seeing the shift. And Risa, I was here during the 2008 recession, and so when the lockdowns happened, I thought it was going to be 2008 all over again. So things did slow down for about 6 months from March of 2020 until kind of like the end of summer, and then it was full steam ahead, and it's just been insane. I've never seen a market like this. We're getting up to 6 offers on a property. Things are selling 20, 30, $60,000 over asking. So it's a hot market here, like in so many different big cities in the States and Canada. So Vallarta is no different.
Yeah, it seems like whatever happens in the U.S. happens down in Mexico in terms of the real estate
Well, no,
market.
Vallarta's real estate market, it's kind of like a bubble in itself. It's not reflective of what you see in Guadalajara or Mexico City. So it's a little bit different. So other parts of the country, it's not sizzling hot like it is in PV. But right now, PV is on a good streak.
That's awesome. Vicky's asking, are most buildings pet friendly?
I would say the majority of them, yes. There are a handful that don't allow for pets, but there are few and far between.
and it is an area that loves pets, animals. When we first started coming here, there was so much different then, but there were a lot of stray dogs and cats, and now you hardly ever see that because the community stepped up and have really taken care of the pet population, and they take them in and they have places to get them a home, and that's been really great to see. It's a very pet friendly community.
So Mario is a dual citizen. I'm assuming Mexican, U.S. Can I purchase a home with my wife, who is a U.S. citizen, without going through a trust?
If both of you are going to be on the title and you want to use your Mexican citizenship, and your wife is a foreigner, then you do need a trust. If the deed is going to be if it's going to be deeded just to you as a Mexican national and your wife's not going to be on there, then you don't need a trust. So long as you have a foreigner in the restricted zone, which is 50 kilometers from the coastline and 100 kilometers from the international border, then you will need a trust if there's a foreigner involved.
Where do Craig and Randy live? This is a very popular question, Craig and Randy. They live about 15 minutes south of the romantic zone. So the center of town, if you just go due south, right on the beach, you'll see them sipping their margaritas on the beach.
Yeah. It's, here people go, oh my gosh, you're driving so far. We lived in Los Angeles for 25 years. So driving down a 2-lane highway for 15 minutes or 20 along the beach is not what I consider to be hell in traffic. It's just not.
It's not the 101.
It's a beautiful drive.
No, it's not the 101. I mean, it used to take me an hour to get to work when to go 4 miles.
Yeah.
It's
insane.
Yeah.
Tatiana's asking about Hualtuco and Puerto Escondido. I've been to both. I don't know if you guys can speak to those. It's very, very different from PV, by far.
I've been to Puerto Escondido.
Huh?
We have been to Puerto Escondido, but it was a very long time ago. Yeah. We took a vacation there in 1999, and it's beautiful.
Yeah.
but it's far more I don't know now, but it was far more rustic than Vallarta.
And the beaches, I mean, it's a surfing beach. So the waves, it's not, the
Yeah.
beaches are not
You,
swimmable.
you
I'm
don't
not
take
sure.
your kids to play in the water there.
I mean, the waves
The waves are like,
I mean, I'm a kid that grew up in the Pacific, swimming in the ocean, and I was considerably younger there, and I made the mistake of getting in the water and almost drowned.
but it's beautiful.
But it's beautiful.
Good to know. Yeah. So the water has not changed. The town may have changed.
Yeah.
Pat
And
is
it's a
asking.
big surfing beach.
Yeah, for sure. It's very famous for that. What about the Rio Quale area? I don't know what specifically about that you're asking in terms of real estate or just. Do you guys want to?
What would you like to know about Rio Quale?
I don't
Rio
know.
Quale,
I don't know what Pat's asking, but let me see. I'm trying to just go in order. But the Rio Quale area, I mean, it actually suffered quite a bit of damage with the storm that was a few months ago. Is that right?
well,
Hurricane
it was
Nora.
Yeah.
yeah, it was last summer, and actually it didn't rain hard in the romantic zone. It rained a lot in the mountainside, so all that water came down and funneled down into the Rio Quale, and it basically became like a roaring rapids. And the Insurgentes Bridge. So there are two bridges that connect the downtown, where the Malecon is, the boardwalk, and the romantic zone. One bridge leads the traffic into romantic zone, and then the Insurgentes Bridge goes out of romantic zone and into El Centro. Well, that bridge is considerably lower, so as the river rose and it was the rapids, it destroyed that bridge. But actually, they're almost done rebuilding it, and it's supposed to open around Easter time, the middle of April.
Nice. Yeah, they suffered quite a bit of damage for those houses that were like right along the river.
Yeah, some of those old homes. Yes, exactly. It kind of like eroded the earth, and one of my friends, their home is sustained considerable damage. They're still not back over there. And one of the condominium developments, when they built it back in 2007-ish, they were kind of being eco-friendly, so they use a lot of old tires to build as part of the foundation. Unfortunately, this happened, and they took all that earth out. So now in the process of rebuilding it.
Wow.
But it's interesting, that part that's inland closer to the Rio Quale is gentrifying, and there's lots of new restaurants, and there's we have a friend who has an Airbnb there that's packed, and the whole area is becoming, if you're a Los Angeles person, it's sort of like Silver Lake. It's becoming this sort of cool, hip area.
Well, I think that's true of Vallarta overall.
Right.
It's on the up and up. I mean, it's exciting here to see the kind of growth and improvements that are happening here.
Yeah, no, I've been going for 10 years now, and every time I go, it's a little bit different, How about house prices versus condos, 3 to 4 bedroom homes in residential areas? Is there a big price difference, do you find?
Well, Vallarta, it's a big market. When I say Vallarta, let's just talk about Banderas Bay. I mean, just talking about the numbers of like Fluvial, Versailles, 5th of December, Romantic Zone, Amapas, where Randy and Craig live in the South Shore. I mean, they've all got their little micro markets, and the pricing they're considerably different one from the other. So for example, in Conchas Chinas, finding a house under $1 million right now is very, very tough. However, for around, between 250 and up, maybe to $500,000, you can find a lot of houses in and around Fluvial, Versailles, and their neighboring town of Gaviotas as well. So it's not going to be necessarily be in town. You might not have the views for $300,000 for a house, but you can find a house for $300,000 in Fluvial and Versailles.
Yeah, and I have to say, so if anybody if you want to see what the neighborhoods look like, Taniel and I did a video of different residential neighborhoods within Puerto Vallarta. You can watch that on the Modern Aging YouTube channel. I think if you just do Modern Aging Puerto Vallarta, they'll probably pop up, because we did 2 videos because we had to split it up because we were going to do too many neighborhoods. But it actually will give you an idea, especially if we went to Fluvial and Versailles and Gaviotas. You can tell that it's just much more residential. It's all lower, it's homes. It's not, these big condo buildings and such. Went to the 5th of December. We went to the Romantic Zone and Conchas Chinas. So you'll see all those, and Amapa. So you'll see all those different neighborhoods. Yeah. And Sunmon Street. So the rent that Craig and Randy, we talked about that. That's $2,000 a month. Kathy is asking, we've owned our home here in Canada for the last 16 years. How do we provide references to potential landlords? So do they ask for references when you're renting property?
Our landlord wanted to meet us.
He flew in from Mexico City, and it was easy. I mean, we just hit it off immediately.
Oh,
but
so
I don't
instead of
know about
references-
if you're like renting a place, or I'm sure they have to have some references, but I think whatever references you have, if it's your landlord or someone that you've lived next to for a long time, if they write a good letter of recommendation, should certainly suffice.
Right. Because I'm sure a lot of people are in the same situation where they've owned their home and now they're going to rent.
Yeah. So Lisa, some do and some don't. Basically, when I was renting for a number of years, my landlord, I mean, she didn't ask for any references, but of course she had a very lengthy contract I had to sign. So I mean, everyone does it differently.
Are there any issues with consistent electricity, Wi-Fi, internet?
Oh,
yes.
Yes. It's not as bad where we are now. But we had a lot of problems with our internet in Conchas Chinas. It usually was repaired within a day, sometimes within a matter of hours. But it did seem, and there were power surges.
But I have to say, we lived in Santa Fe, and there were power surges in Santa Fe.
It's true.
So good surge protectors.
Yeah.
Where I live now,
frankly, if I were building a place, I would put a large surge protector at the box, or if I was buying a new place.
Did you want to say something, Taniel?
Yeah, where I lived in Conchas Chinas, which is the same building for Randy and Craig, the fiber optics in my place was fine. The wiring in their place, something was wrong. Remember Randy and Craig, and they just couldn't figure it out, and that caused a lot of problems for them. But in my place, it was I fear to say perfect, but it was great. I didn't have any problems because the previous owner kind of redid all the wiring in my unit. When I moved to Alta Vista, the internet there with the same company wasn't great. So there's another service provider called Total Play, and it's been phenomenal. I've only had one problem. We had an electrical storm, and there was a blackout, and that kind of messed it up for a little bit. But other than that, it's been fine.
That's great. So in terms of transportation, let's talk a little bit about having a car there, parking, Uber, bus. So Uber is available in PV, but it's not in Playa del Carmen. You don't have Uber, right? Tell me a little bit about the buses and then owning a car. What is it like to own a car in PV?
Well, I can't imagine living without a car here. I mean, when we first started coming here, we thought the romantic zone was all of Puerto Vallarta. We thought, oh, it's so cute there. It's really tiny and you can walk everywhere. Guess what? Our population is now, I think, around 240,000 because it's a much bigger area than we imagined when we were just a tourist here.
The bay has a population of over 400,000. The entire bay.
Bay of Banderas, yeah.
That includes Nayarit and Bucerias and all those places on the north.
So I drive to La Comer, which is our grocery store. That's like, it's beautiful. It's like a Whole Foods at a quarter of the price. We have a Costco. I mean, we have a big shopping mall. We have more than one shopping mall. But
I
the
know.
buses are everywhere. They run everywhere. They're super cheap. It's how much, Taniel, do you know now for a
It's
bus?
been a while since I got a
It was
car. Yeah, it's been a
8.
while.
I think it's gone
Yeah,
up to 10 pesos or something.
yeah,
10 pesos,
So
a
like
nickel.
50 cents.
Yeah.
yeah. It's nothing. When I
Um,
moved here, so I didn't have a car for 2.5 years until I went into real estate, and there were no Ubers back then. We're talking 2003, and I took cabs and I took the bus, and you can get anywhere in town just with those two.
absolutely.
Yeah.
We don't drive after dark. Um, we don't take a drink and drive either. So,
But we use Uber.
but we use Uber and we use
It's
taxis.
it's not always as speedy as we would like them to be, but that may be true everywhere. There's taxis, lots of taxis. The taxis are very clean, very professional. You can communicate easily with them. I think you're not going to find many issues in terms of transportation here.
I think though also, and Tanya, you could speak to this. So if you become a temporary resident or permanent resident, you then are forced to purchase a car in Mexico. Like you can't have your imported car, or you have to pay a certain amount of taxes or something like that, right?
So if you're a temporary resident, you can drive a foreign license plate vehicle, but once you become a permanent resident, it has to be a Mexican plate.
So
Yeah.
oh, so you can take your imported.
For example, when I went into real estate, we had an extra family car in Los Angeles, so I flew up, and then I had to register the car at the border. So back then, I don't know if this has changed. I haven't looked into it in quite some time, but back then, so long as your residency car was valid, so it hadn't expired, then your tags were valid as well. So my California car was legally here. So once I became a permanent resident, I could no longer drive my California license plate vehicle. I had to change the plates into Jalisco license plates. But at that point, I sold the car anyways, and I just bought a car over here at one of the dealerships in Vallarta.
So technically, you can keep your imported car, and change the license plate. You just have to pay for it.
Yeah,
But that's
and back
only
then
when
the
you
car had to be at least, I believe, it had to be at least 10 years old in order for you to change the plates. Otherwise, it would cost like a ridiculous amount. It wouldn't be worth it.
and it takes a while to become, or it can. I mean, the immigration stuff is very individual depending on where you are.
To get your residency card.
Get your residency.
You get a
card.
temporary residency card initially. You go to immigration, this is all through your immigration person, your lawyer. And then after a certain amount of time, you're eligible. For me, it was 4 years to get my permanent residency card. And now I have that, and it's good for a long time, I think.
And at that point, we bought a car here and sent the other car back with our son to the United States.
Oh, that's great. And then also, just so you know, so there is a hack, but you would have to check on your state or province or wherever you're coming from in terms of fast tracking to a permanent residency, that if you have X number amount in your bank account that's sitting there liquid, and it's at least I believe it's about 120,000, and that you can prove it with statements and such, and go to the Mexican consulate and talk with them, but you can fast track and get your permanent residency. So that's something
or if your partner is a Mexican citizen, if your husband or wife is a Mexican citizen, they will give you a permanent residency card.
That's great. Taniel, can you point me to someone who does rentals in Grand Venetian or Icon Vallarta? Marvin, why don't you email me, hello@thisismodernaging.com, specifically about your questions, like stuff like this, and then we can, give you suggestions if he has anything. Okay, Catherine, we just talked about vehicles, so that's great. Taniel, I know you have 2 small dogs. I guess your your little puppies
do?
are very famous too. Can you bring them anywhere in PV? Any restrictions? Is it easy to bring them back and forth, Canada and PV on a plane?
Yeah. Well, a lot of the beach restaurants and the cafe, like sidewalk cafes, they're pet friendly. Some restaurants you can't, like you can't take them to Costco or like other grocery stores. They usually won't let you, but otherwise, you can take your dogs anywhere.
And then, of course, as if I believe it depends on the airline, but if your dogs, generally for the U.S., they have to be under 20 pounds in order to be able to fit underneath the seat.
Yeah, you should check with your airline because that's changing all the time.
Yeah. Curly is asking first, how do you work with banks from the States to PV? And are you able to transfer money easily from the U.S. to Mexico? Should you use Mexican banks for loans to purchase?
Yep.
Okay.
Let him answer the loan thing
Yeah,
first.
you can answer the loan part too.
All right. There is a dollar loan available right now, and I can send you information on that. But if you're going to get a loan here in Mexico, it's going to be a peso loan for the most part, and it's through the Mexican bank. So interest rates are considerably higher. So don't get that sticker shock. I just found out that there is a dollar loan available here as well. So if you're interested in finding out more information, just email Risa, and I could get you in contact with a mortgage broker.
Yeah, but that's the big difference, though. They're usually in Mexico, if you're going to get a loan, they're more gap loans. And a lot of people finance their homes in Mexico because it's it's like 90% plus cash market. But if
Our
you do
market
need
is,
a
yes.
gap loan, you can do that. Or a lot of people do. And I believe, well, you guys sold your home in New Mexico, right? But a lot of people do like
We
home equity
eventually
loans and
sold our
then bring
home.
that
For the
money
first
down.
year, we were foolish and rented it and had a nightmare tenant. But after that, what we did is we owned our own home outright. We refinanced our home, pulled out part of the value, bought the condo here, and paid the mortgage in the U.S. Is how we dealt with it.
And
And
And in terms of
do that as
daily
well.
banking, it's very easy. We use Intercam, and it's very easy. They use pesos or dollars. They work with Americans, Canadians, people from all over the world. Banking is really
Well, the great thing about Intercam, as opposed to other banks,
good.
I won't name banks,
Good, I wouldn't.
is that you can write a U.S. check and hand it to them and they deposit it.
Oh, wow.
So
Not a lot of problems with banking.
not a lot of problems with banking. However, we had challenges at some Mexican banks. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, where there was not a lot of English spoken. They did not particularly want to speak English, and we just were at the wrong bank. That's all. I think we maybe answered most of that. I wanted to just mention something that we were talking about before we went on live, which was mail, because we were very concerned about that when we first moved here. And we really couldn't believe that there was no mail. But for us as residents here, there is no mail. There is not a postman who comes down the street and puts mail in your mailbox. So we got what I call a traveling mailbox in Albuquerque. It's a virtual in the United States. It's a virtual mailbox. Our mail goes there. When we get mail, you get an option to open, scan, send, delete forever. And then they will send, if it's a check, we have them send it directly to our US bank. If it's something that comes down here, we have it shipped down here or sent down here. And then we have a postal service, a mailing service here called iShop. That's great. And they actually only charge us for something that's outside of Mexico. If we have anything coming from inside Mexico, there's no charge.
And they don't charge us for letters coming
Right.
from the U.S. But putting something in the mail in the U.S. and expecting it to arrive in Mexico can take a year or a year and a half.
Yeah.
Wow.
And you also have to know that everything that is sent to Mexico from the U.S. is opened by the Mexican government.
Right. That's good to know.
Hey, Lisa,
Okay.
talking about banking, really quick. I'm often asked, how do I pay my bills here in Mexico? So, with one of the banks that I'm with, I have like my telephone bill, my home phone, cell phone, electricity, payroll, paying my income tax here in Mexico, HOA dues, everything I've got programmed in there. So it's really easy. So when I receive the bill in my email, I just log in and I pay the bill, and that's it.
And by the way, like utility bills, like your electric bill, there's somebody that drives around and delivers it to you.
Wow. That's
At least
amazing.
here, that's what happens.
That's amazing. Okay, so I want to start to get through this because I know we're about an hour in, so get to as many questions as possible. Is a black F-150 too large to drive in the local area? Would it make me a target for robbery? I don't even know what a black. No.
There's lots of big cars here. There's lots
that's
of
true.
Range Rovers and everything else.
Hummers, yeah.
Yeah.
I would not buy a car that is too low to the ground because of the cobblestone streets.
Right.
And the mountains.
And
yeah.
In the mountains. You'll be like,
and during monsoon season, the streets don't always drain properly. And if you've got a car that's too low to the ground, that might not be so great.
You would float away.
Literally.
I don't think we would. There's no water strong enough to float us away.
Do you maintain a U.S. address or Social Security, U.S. driver's license, etc.?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. Okay. And just so you know that another thing that someone had pointed out on a different session, which I think is really, really key, is when you first moved down to Mexico. So they had packed everything up. They were so excited to leave Canada. They came down and they realized that they canceled their Canadian cell phones. And then when they were kind of going back to do all logging into their bank account and stuff, a lot of that stuff needs two-step verification, which means sending a text to your phone with that code that you have to enter into the computer. So they didn't have those phones anymore. So they really screwed themselves. So don't be in such a rush to cancel everything, once you leave. So you just definitely want to do it gradually. But it was a real headache for them to kind of then be able to just get into their bank.
Situation.
Ease into the transition.
Yeah.
And about phones, Risa, what's really nice right now with your Mexican landline, like a Telmex, or your cell provider, like I have Telcel, you can call the United States and Canada unlimited, no extra charge. That's all included in your monthly fee. So my home bill with internet is around $20, and my Telcel I pay around $25 a month, and I can call the States and Canada. And when I'm in the States, there's no roaming charges.
It's awesome.
Speaking of that, it's true that everything is cheaper here. It's unbelievable. When we talk to our son in the US and he says, I just went out for a hamburger and I had a, Coke and some fries and a little salad, and it was $27. We're like, well, where did you go? Things are so inexpensive here, and it's just a huge pressure off of our lives because we basically live on Social Security. And we are able to do that comfortably here. So that the stress level of living here has diminished the stress in our life tremendously in so many ways, but certainly financially.
That's great. And that's very true. But you can live lavishly if you want to as well, as I've witnessed.
Sure.
Yes.
If you prefer. And so it's basically both ends of the spectrum. How do you guys handle the heat and humidity? in the
Oh,
summer?
that's a really good question. That's a really good question because every year we came down here for a vacation, we would always say, is it really, really bad in the summer? Should we never come in the summer? And once we moved here, it was really, really bad in the summer. But that was that was really just that summer. It's never been that bad again, I don't think.
No, and the storms are beautiful.
Beautiful. The rains.
If you like watching weather,
You watch the weather come across the bay, and it's just magnificent. And the clouds start coming in, building up early afternoon. And once the clouds are building up and block the sun, the temperature drops a lot. It is humid, but I grew up in Texas. It was incredibly humid, and when I was growing up, there weren't a lot of air conditioners. I remember seeing my first car. No, I'm kidding. I'm not that old. But the air conditioners were not prevalent, and you lived. It's just not that horrible. We have ceiling fans. We have air conditioners in every room.
We've yet to turn on our air conditioner.
We haven't had the air conditioners on where we live now because we're on the beach and there's always a wonderful breeze.
We had to buy jackets.
Okay, that's a little extreme, but I will not.
Okay. Well, wear your bikini down to our place one night and let's see how you do.
Well, I think, I have been there in the summer. It is hot. It is humid. If you're very sensitive to that, then maybe PV is not for you. Is it excruciating? No, but it is. I mean, it is. It's the tropics, so there's no getting away from it. If you're getting older, it's great for your skin. My skin loves it because it's so dry where I am. So there are benefits.
And there are times of the summer when we say if we're going out to eat, we look for an air-conditioned restaurant. We're not going to go if it's, really, really hot and humid. We're not going to go to an unair-conditioned restaurant probably. So there's choices.
Right.
And almost all air conditioning is air conditioned by the room. You have an air conditioner in your room. So you're not air conditioning the entire house. It's not central.
It's not central.
They're mini splits instead of the central.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. Do you pay Mexican taxes in addition to filing for U.S. taxes?
Is that to me or to Randy and Craig?
And to anybody?
Well, we can
Go
do
ahead.
this.
Go ahead.
I file my taxes here every month, so I have to pay here. I do my annual filing in the States as well. So long as you're a United States citizen, you have to file your annual tax returns.
Wait a minute. Be sure to tell about our the capital gains tax.
Well,
I thought that was really good news.
I don't understand it, so Taniel.
Taniel can tell them.
Your capital gains tax?
Yeah, we paid. It was so little.
But that was strategic,
that
though.
would have been a fortune.
That was strategic. You have to, and that's when you buy. And this is something that actually we'll be talking about later on. But when you purchase, you have to really be thinking about selling at the point of purchase. And Tanya, you can talk to more about that.
Well, when you're purchasing a property like anywhere else, at some point the likelihood of you selling it is it's going to happen. So it's important to kind of keep that in mind when you're buying. And we can discuss this. I think we discussed it some other videos, Risa. What you should consider lining up, getting your ducks all lined up. So when you do sell, you minimize your capital gains tax exposure. And that's what we did for Randy and Craig. So they had to pay very little capital gains tax when they sold their condo last year.
Okay, so
I have a small business that I do have to file taxes on. I don't make enough money off of it to pay big taxes. I'm also in a small business program because the Mexican government's trying to get rid of the cash transactions because they don't make money off of it.
So any thoughts on how much cash to have on hand when you actually move to rent a place, attorney for all paperwork, anything else?
Boy, there's ATMs everywhere. I mean, I
get a different question. Taniel may answer this
What?
question.
Is it?
Well, just how much to budget to actually make the move here. I think
To
whatever
buy or
you
something?
end up,
Not just
I
to
don't know. Is
travel.
it 3 months worth of expenses, 6 months? I guess it really depends, right? Are you coming, if you're coming to retire?
Yeah, I mean that there, I would have a lot of questions in order to be able to answer that. That's kind of a bit broad. When I moved here, I moved here right before I turned 32, and so I was still going to be working here. So I did not have a job lined up in PV. So for me, it was important to be completely U.S. debt free, not knowing if I was going to be able to pay off those debts from whatever job I was going to find over here. But I didn't necessarily think how much it was going to cost for me to live on a monthly basis, because I was just a little tourist going back and forth, and I was going to rent for a while. And of course, values have gone up, prices have gone up like everywhere else in the world. But if you're going to come down here, let's just say off the bat, you want to have some cash on hand because you don't have a bank account. You're not going to be paying, utility bills online like I do right now. Just budget yourself for about 3 months. So whatever your rent's going to be, have that available. And this is just a very broad general rule here, right? It's not cast in stone. And your utility bills, I mean, gas and water is not much. Electricity is not bad unless you're running the AC 24/7 and you leave it on when you leave the house. Just kind of be conscious of that. My electric bill right now is roughly around $25-$30 a month. It's not bad. I live in a 1,000-square-foot condo. But really also depends on your lifestyle. Are you going to be cooking at home, or are you going to go to these, fine dining every other night?
Okay, so we're really getting into time. So any of the healthcare questions, just so you know, we're going to actually have a free webinar in May where we're going to cover specifically healthcare options for foreigners. So you probably will want to come to that because we're just not going to be able to get too in depth about it here. But U.S. Expat Insurance is basically an American company that provides insurance for Americans that live abroad, who live outside of the
And there's
U.S.
also international companies.
Right. That's true. Yes.
And there are, again, this is part of your networking job. There are people here who can help you find expat insurance or Mexican insurance, or I mean, whatever you want. There's experts here that can help you in those areas if you just network it, like Taniel.
Yeah.
And there's people, we have friends who have Mexican insurance, but at the age we got it, it was as expensive as a U.S. insurance.
Yeah.
Because
there are a number of insurance companies here. I noticed someone was asking for some references for insurance companies. There's an insurance company like AXA. I have my car insurance from them. You can get healthcare coverage, or you can get homeowners insurance. There's another one called Novamar, and there are many, many more. So you can look for them online, or just email Risa specifically what you need, and we can get you in contact with those agents to help you obtain some estimates.
Yeah, and my email is hello@thisismodernaging.com. I should put it in the comment section. Okay, I'll do that at the end. Just quickly kind of going through renting. When moving there, do you recommend renting initially to make sure you're happy in a particular area before purchasing? Absolutely, and you can be there on a tourist visa for the 180 days. A lot of people do that. They rent on a tourist visa, and they kind of figure out, because even within PV, there's so many different neighborhoods, and they all have different vibes. So you want to really figure out if PV, you may want to go to Bucerias, you may want to go to Sayulita, you might, So yeah, that I would definitely recommend that. So email me if you want more insurance questions. Okay, I'm just kind of scrolling through. Where's the best place for a single retired lady on the beach that's not so noisy?
Underwater. I don't know. I mean, it's every area is different, and it's different every day. When we used to live in Conchas Chinas, we were up on the side of a hill, and sometimes at the hotels down on the beach, there would be parties, and we could hear it. And there's fireworks a lot in Puerto Vallarta because there's a lot to celebrate here. But then there's other areas and places and times when it's absolutely tranquil, tranquillo in español, tranquillo.
You definitely have to get out of the romantic zone, out of like the center area if you really want quiet, though.
Yeah,
I mean,
definitely.
it's just so alive there, and that's where all the restaurants are. A lot of tourists are there. It just, so, where Randy and Craig are, if you just go a little bit south or a little bit north, it's definitely much more quiet, because I need quiet for sure. Mario's asking, with the increase of construction, what is PV doing about the increased need for power, internet, water, roads, etc.? Infrastructure.
Yeah, I mean that's a great question, and just like in a lot of cities that are growing, there are the growing pains of kind of the supply and demand trying to catch up to the market. So recently, if we were driving through PV, like in in Gringo Gulch, which is by the Rio Quale, they were tearing up all the streets and redoing them. So they were adding like new sewage down there, and also in places like Fluvial and Versailles. That area has been booming, so they've been improving the infrastructure there as well. The airport, they've got plans to expand the airport again. So the city's doing what they can, but it's the bureaucracy of politics. I mean, things don't kind of move, like as fast as the market does. So there's always that catching up to do with the market is here, and then all of a sudden we need to increase the infrastructure. So it's not perfect like anywhere else in the world, but they are trying to make all those improvements and to meet up with the demand of the market.
Taniel, can you speak about the average cost for a half-acre lot, and if people can actually build their own house on it?
Again, it depends on where you're looking for a lot, so I really can't give you a number off the top of my head, but you're not going to find a half-acre lot per se around like close to the water, where like 5th of December and Fluvial, romantic zone, you have to go a bit further south, like where Randy and Craig are living, where it's less developed down there. So you can find larger plots of land and not have that many neighbors where you can build. Absolutely, a lot of people do buy pieces of property like that and build their dream home.
Okay, so your wife is Mexican.
Just let me give you a quick example, Risa. You can go into the mountains about 45, 50 minutes away. I mean, you really don't have anyone around you, and a plot of land can cost you, $30,000, $40,000. That same size land, in Amapa's mountainside or Conchas Chinas could be $200,000, $300,000. So you've got that big variance depending on where you're going to be.
Exactly. Like anywhere, I guess.
Yeah.
Is there a way to have minor children who are Mexican nationals to be the beneficiary of a property?
So here's the challenge with yes, absolutely. If you want to put your minor children as a substitute beneficiaries, you can. That's not a problem. I had a client a long time ago, and they didn't know this, but when they purchased a property, they're foreigners, they put their minor children as one of 4 primary beneficiaries. So in a real estate trust, you have your primary beneficiaries, in the sense the owners, kind of, sort of, like the husband and wife or couple. And then you have your substitute beneficiaries, so the heirs to the property in the event of your passing. So what happened was, in this case, they put their children also as primary beneficiaries. So you had the parents and the 2 kids. By the time they wanted to sell, one of them was his legal age, and the other one was still a minor, right? She was, I think, 17 years old. And they couldn't sell the property because the courts felt like the way they look at it is this child being forced to do something against her will. So they went to court to prove no, they're buying a larger home in Vallarta. They want to sell this one because it's too small now. So long story short, they did not approve. The courts did not approve. So they had to wait until the daughter turned 18, and then they could transfer the title over to the buyer. So be really careful when you're doing that. Again, you could email Risa, and I could help guide you and kind of suggest some attorneys to speak to in regards to that.
Great. Okay. So can you speak a little bit about natural climate related issues that would affect people in Puerto Vallarta, earthquakes, hurricanes? Are there any insurance implications?
Since I've been living here, we never had an earthquake with the epicenter in Vallarta. We've had them further south. We felt the aftershocks. Hurricanes, we haven't had a hurricane hit Vallarta in quite some time. Hurricane Kenna in 2000, I think it was 2002, hit San Blas, which is further north, way north from the bay. But there were big waves that did damages to the hotels along the beach and a whole bunch of beach restaurants. And because hurricanes do not like to go into deep bay, and Banderas Bay is the largest bay in Mexico, and also we have the Sierra Madre Mountains, which are hurricane killers. So for those two reasons, we really don't get hurricanes over here. That's not to say every 50, 100 years, some weird weather anomaly isn't going to happen. We might get a hurricane. Hurricane insurance is available. It's very expensive, so a lot of people opt not to have it. And then we get our summer storms over here. August, September are the wettest months, the hottest, most humid months, and sometimes it gets really windy. That's about it.
Awesome. So are there services available to hire housekeeper, chef, groundskeeper? Absolutely. You can hire anybody. Yeah. Anything that you need. There's people around, which is amazing. And there's Facebook groups that you can ask for references, or if you make some friends, and I would definitely get somebody who has a reference or comes recommended. Can you recommend reputable condo insurance?
Risa, let me just inject something here. We have a housekeeper who she's our saint. I mean, I can't imagine living without her. She's changed our life. She comes twice a week. She cleans our whole place. It's spotless. She does the dishes. She cleans the kitchen. She does the laundry. She sweeps. She mops. And we pay $25 a visit.
The equivalent.
The equivalent of $25 a visit.
And she's like a speed demon.
She is the sweetest, most wonderful thing. So there.
That's awesome. That's so awesome. And somebody you can find that, and most importantly, someone who's trustworthy, right? And that you really like.
Mm-hmm. It was through a friend referral.
And I feel like she's part of my family.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Can you recommend reputable condo insurance providers?
Well, just two that I mentioned earlier. I know they provide homeowners insurance, so that's AXA is one of them, and Novo Mars another, and there are a bunch more. So if you'd like to email Risa, I can give you a list.
And I put my email in the text chain. So yes, they do. So Tim's asking if you stay in PV during the summer months. Yes, humidity is tolerable. Depending on how sensitive you are.
We actually have gotten to where we love the summer. We kind of, in a lot of ways, actually prefer it because it's just so great. The storms, watching the storms over the bay, and how green the forests become.
And it's quieter.
It's quieter, más tranquilo.
So this is your favorite question, Taniel. What are property taxes like? And are there HOA fees for most areas?
It's Mexico's gift that keeps on giving. Property taxes here are not an issue. My old condo, which was 2,800 square feet, I was paying around, by the time I sold it, I was paying around $175 a year in property tax. And my new place, right now, I'm paying $75 a year in property tax.
And you can actually get that discounted if you pay.
Oh, yes. If you pay for the whole year in the month of January, you get a 15% discount, and it goes down to 10% in February, then 5% in March. So really, it's a non-issue here. It's fantastic.
But HOA fees are a little bit higher.
No, HOA fees, it really depends, Risa, on the building. So is it an old building? Is it on the beach? Does it have one elevator? Does it have 10 elevators? Is there like a Olympic-sized lap pool, a small pool, no pool, gardening? You have security personnel, or is it just a CCTV? So it really depends on all of that in order to formulate and come up with the amount of the HOA dues. So you have some HOA dues, that are a couple $100. You can go up to like $1,000 for a luxury penthouse. So it really depends, and you have that wide range.
How risky are pre-construction properties?
There's always some type of a risk of pre-construction, regardless if you're buying in Mexico or anywhere else in the world. It's really important to look at the development, the developer. They've got a reputable, they're a reputable developer, and look at their track history. but also look at the financials. It's very important to hire a real estate attorney, whether or not it's a pre-sale or a resale, to look at the contracts, to look at all the legal documents to make the best decision possible moving forward. There's always some type of a risk, regardless if it's pre-construction or not.
Coming to PV for the first time, should we rent a car to go to Sayulita to look at property? I don't know if.
Are you?
Yeah.
You're going to be staying in Vallarta and you want to drive out to Sayulita?
I guess so. I guess if you want to drive around, but you can actually hire drivers, and that's actually sometimes the easier way. It depends. If you love to drive and explore and get lost, that's great, and then you should do that. But if you don't,
but driving here, I mean, it's like, it's kind of like Mad Max sometimes. It's pretty wild. So
that's because you're driving with Taniel.
It takes some real getting used to, and come on,
not that bad.
You have the parking ferry on your shoulder. Everywhere he goes, there's a parking space. It is challenging, and if you're a good driver and a careful driver, and you can learn all the different rules about where to turn left and when, and what all the different signal lights mean, okay, sure. I would not recommend it right away.
Yeah.
But that's
Yeah.
just
I actually do have a recommendation for drivers. If you're interested, you can email me if you want to go that route.
Yeah.
We'll
If it's your first time in PV and you want to go out to Sayulita, that's roughly an hour drive. I would say just take the bus. It's really affordable, and the buses come and go there all the time. You can take an Uber or take a taxi. Like Risa said, there are private drivers out there as well. So taking the bus for the first time can be a lot of fun.
Yeah, but we just got a whole new fleet, all new buses last year in Puerto Vallarta,
and they're all eco-friendly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and they're everywhere.
Yeah, a few years ago, the city replaced all these old buses with eco-friendly buses. So, yeah, the buses run everywhere. That's great. Anywhere you want to go.
Is it possible to get leases for more than 12 months if you're renting?
A lease more than 12? Oh, yeah, that's really up between you and the landlord. If you want to do a 2-year lease or more, 1 year, 6 months.
How do you get Amazon packages?
It's really easy. Go to amazon.com.mx. I've been ordering through Amazon Mexico for a number of years.
How do you get it delivered? Do you because the addresses are and it's so hard to get mail?
They will deliver to your address.
Yeah, they will. It's not a problem with Amazon. Not at all.
Amazon US now, for an extra charge, will send to Mexico. So
that's not a problem.
Yeah,
not a problem.
Do you think it's not possible to live in MX without maintaining a U.S. address? I mean, anything is possible.
We don't have a U.S. address other than our virtual one.
Just our virtual one. That's all we have.
Oh, you have your virtual one if you need stuff.
We have a virtual mailbox so that we can get,
our forms, our tax forms, our all that kind of stuff.
I'm in the Directors Guild, so anything I get from the union, I get through my traveling mailbox. But yeah, we don't have an address there other than just that virtual mailbox. That's
great. Can anyone speak to, so we're going to wrap this up very soon, but I just want to try to get to a few questions. So anyone want to talk about electricity rates? Are they as bad as they hear?
Cheap.
Cheap? No. Well, you're not running your AC all the time.
Electricity?
It depends on, our son ran his air conditioner 24/7, and we had a very high electric bill.
Yes. There you go.
High for Mexico.
High for Mexico.
Like I said.
But Taniel answered this earlier. Basically, the electricity bills here are very inexpensive.
And the other thing about it is if you're over 65, you can get a card. Now, we have not managed to get this card because they never seem to have them when we show up. But you can get a card and your electricity bill's cut in half.
That's called a DIF card, DIF, and you apply for that. And if you're 65 or older, you can get that, and you get discounts all over the place, including half off on your electricity bill. Reason, if we're nearing the end, I just want to make sure I get this bit in there because it's important to me. When we were moving here, we had been coming here for 12 years for 2 weeks, to get a sense of the place. So a lot of the myths were taken care of. But I think for a lot of people, even friends of ours who have these questions for us when they're just going to come visit, they are myths. This is not the scariest place in the world. It's one of the most wonderful places in the world. The people here, and I'm talking about Vallarta right now, are so kind and generous. It's a joy to live here in terms of community and the way you're treated, whether you're going into a business or whether it's people you know or people you don't know. And I think it's important for people to know that it's not like you're walking into a war zone. I mean, it's just not.
And you have to realize that you're a guest in their country and
Right.
treat them well.
Yes.
Yes, I agree wholeheartedly. I know that there's so many different questions here that I've not gotten to, but I want to be respectful of everybody's time. If you do want to have if we did not answer your question, you can email me at hello@thisismodernaging.com. And at this portion, I just want to make an announcement because you guys have asked so many incredible questions that I think that at this point, so some of you are still thinking about it, and others are ready to kind of really start planning your move. I can tell by the specificity of your questions that you're like ready to pack your car or pack your bags and fly down. So I just wanted to offer this, that we do have a free live webinar that's going to be coming up that Taniel and I are going to be doing. And we also have a special guest, Pam Thompson, who is a healthcare specialist. So we're going to be specifically talking about buying property and also healthcare options. So that's going to be on May 15th, the 18th, and the 19th. And you can just register there at dreamretirementinmexico.com/webinar. And it's totally free. And and so it has different times and stuff. So just make sure that it's the time slot that you can actually make. And that's going to be more of a kind of a webinar presentation type of thing, but you'll also be able to ask your questions as well. And then for those of you who are perhaps a little bit further down the road and you're ready to kind of really make the move, but like you said, we kept talking about, getting the trusted people that you know on your team, knowing the information that you need to know. These are all questions that we've received over the years making these videos. So Taniel and I have actually put together this program for you so that you have like one spot where it's, all the information that you need, from accounting to real estate to, things like capital gains taxes when you're selling, to healthcare options, dentistry, vet care, visas. It's amazing. We got all these top experts who really are talking about it to you as you kind of make these decisions. I don't know if you wanted to add anything else, Taniel, but we have a special offer that you guys get $100 off using the code YT100, and that is only till Thursday, March 31st. And then it'll go back to its retail price. But we just found that we just wanted to provide something that was really helpful for people so that they could make the right decisions. Because this is a huge, huge decision that you guys are making, and you want to make sure that you're not making any mistakes. We can't prevent mistakes, and you may make some mistakes, and I'm sure you will along the way, but these will prevent you from making the big ones. So as we kind of wrap this up, I don't know, Taniel, if you wanted to add anything, and if you guys want to just share kind of like your last pieces of advice for folks. Randy and Craig, you kind of gave a little bit of a sense about, not being fearful about the move and that sort of thing. But is there kind of concrete advice that you could kind of give folks as we kind of close this up?
Plan and don't ship everything. We made the mistake of it's very expensive to ship your furniture. And we thought, oh, we've got all these things we love. We're going to ship them to Puerto Vallarta. And we did. And now we're trying to get rid of them. Because it was like, it was like $7,000 or $8,000 to ship all of our stuff. And we didn't need to. It would have been more fun to have bought it here.
Good point.
Well, yeah, Lisa, my thing is this, we want to make a big change in our lives. And so we're trying to gather information and plan. And often enough, we're listening to the wrong people or we're reading the wrong articles online. And it's really important to listen to Randy and Craig, who have actually made the move, and other people that have actually taken the steps to accomplish what you're thinking of accomplishing. And so therefore that you can make the best decision possible for yourself. There are going to be a lot of people whispering in your ears saying, what are you doing? Are you crazy? And, and I went through that as well. It was kind of tough. People just couldn't believe I was going to make this move because they just didn't get it. And one of the things I can say is, it's okay to live a life other people don't understand because it's not their life, it's yours. And ultimately, I was responsible for gathering the factual information and blocking out all that noise so I can just kind of focus and decide if this is a yes or a no. And I think in anything in life, you need to do that and to do it for yourself and get the factual information. Just don't believe anything you hear or see. If you want to find something out, go directly to the source and get that information from the horse's mouth.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. And so if you guys have further questions, feel free to email me at hello@thisismodernaging.com. I wish you the best of luck on your journey. And, it's really, really exciting. And I just want we all want you to be really excited about this whole process. And just as a little thing, I just remembered, because Randy and Craig actually are interviewed in dreamretirementinmexico.com. We have a whole section where we interviewed a bunch of expats about their experience and their journey and the things that they recommend for people to think about. So they give other tips as well. But thank you so much, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday, and thank you for spending the time with us. And we'll see you soon. Hopefully, we'll see you in May.
Bye.
Thanks, guys. Adios. Bye-bye.